Dave Gardy here live at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, The Wall, in Washington, D.C. for Memorial Day Ceremony 2007. Thank you for joining us, to veterans and American citizens around the world and world citizens, to see this tremendous ceremony again, always moving on this very important day in American calendar. It's when everybody in America gets together and pays tribute to our war dead for making the ultimate sacrifice. Thank you for joining us. We also want to thank our sponsors, Base Technologies, which has always been good to sponsor both this event and the Veterans Day event here at the Wall. And also a new sponsor, Telamerica. It's an interesting campaign beginning about letting America know about the importance the role plays by the U.S. Merchant Marine in conflicts on the American history and in the future, currently to this day, how valuable it is a component of our entire security structure for the United States of America. Now today, featured speakers will be General Barry McCaffrey, a U.S. Army retired, John Rowan, the National President for the Vietnam Veterans of America, Major General Gail S. Pollock, Commander of the U.S. Army Medical Command, Acting Army Surgeon, and Chief of the Army Nurse Corps, Joseph M. Lawler, the Regional Director of the National Capital Region National Park Service, and Diane Carlson Evans, founder and president of the Vietnam Women's Memorial Foundation. You'll also see, of course, Jan Scruggs, renowned founder and president of the Memorial Fund, who is, through his efforts, able to get this wall constructed in the first place. He'll be the master of ceremonies. The Pledge of Allegiance will be led by First Sergeant Walter Sides and Sergeant Artie Muller of Rolling Thunder. Of course, they went through here yesterday for their 20th anniversary, something that was certainly something to behold. And replicating the old sounds of the B-52 bombers, they certainly did it here in Washington, D.C. At 12:30, country music singer Kenny Thomas will perform from 12:30 to 12:45 and will sing his new song, Last Band of Brothers, during the ceremony. And just after that, just before the ceremony begins, there will be a short procession by the veterans of the Hill Flights of Khe Sanh, Vietnam, who are marking the 40th anniversary this year. It's a very good crowd here this year, more news crews than we've ever seen. In addition, it's very warm. It's about 88, 90 degrees, humid here in Washington, D.C. And, of course, earlier the presidential motorcade went through as the president went from the White House over to Arlington National Cemetery via the Memorial Bridge here, very close to the Vietnam Memorial, and back. And, of course, it's always quite a sight to see a motorcade, especially on a day like today, as he laid the wreath over in Arlington Cemetery. We mentioned earlier the importance of the Merchant Marine in the Vietnam War. In every conflict, Merchant Marine played a role. World War II had the second rate of death next to Marines, as victory ships and other merchant ships that were carrying most of the cargo that allowed us to do what we did in World War II were shot out of the water by U-boats. Over 8,000 men lost their lives, just a tremendous loss of life of merchant sailors who didn't really know if they'd be coming back when they left. In Vietnam, they played a role too. Certainly it wasn't as big, but there was an entire 95% of the cargo, military and otherwise, shipped to Vietnam went by merchant ship and a Ready Reserve fleet. 172 ships were activated out of the Ready Reserve fleet. It's an interesting story that at usmm.org/Vietnam you can get the story on. In fact, wanted to pay tribute to certain, of course, one of the most renowned events that happened was when the limpet mine was placed on the hull of the SS Baton Rouge on August 23rd, 1960, killing the entire engine room by exploding a 12 by 40 foot gaping hole in the side of the ship. Raymond Barrett, John A. Bishop, Earl Erickson, James W. McBride, Timothy N. Reardon, Robert Rowe, Charles B. Rummel were all killed in that, all merchant mariners. USMM.org advocates acknowledgement of some of the sacrifices of those and others from ships like the Badger State, which a lot of merchant ships transported bombs. Explosion among 8,900 bombs and rockets on the SS Badger State on December 26, 1969 resulted in the death of over 20 merchant mariners. So I want to pay tribute to those people today, the people of the Merchant Marine, and want to draw attention to TelamericaTV.com. TelamericaTV.com, again, is the campaign to draw attention to the importance of the U.S. Merchant Marine and the future issues that are staged with not having a strong U.S. flag, and what that means for America's port security, what that means for America's security in general. And at a time when trade is expected to double within the next 15 years, what do we do to create a U.S. flag fleet that will be able to handle that load? In addition to other advances such as marine highways to take the loads off of the highways and rail in the United States. Marine highways are coastwise and other transportation scenarios with barges and on inland waterways that would allow us to really save money, environment, and also grow the country's trade without impacting roads and rail. The concept is being discussed here in Washington, D.C., along with a lot of other concepts as people debate the future of a maritime industry in the United States. TellAmericaTV.org for the latest on that, and we want to thank them for sponsoring us today. The names of 3 servicemen recently added to the wall will be read by Ann Pruitt of Sherman, Texas, the wife of Army Sergeant Richard Monroe Pruitt. These recently added names are Navy Fireman Apprentice Joseph Gerald Krawicki of Holton, Michigan. He's on 15E Line 26. Army Sergeant Richard Monroe Pruitt, San Diego, California, and Army Specialist Wesley Alvin Stuyvesant from Monticello, Illinois. These will be read today as new names to the wall. Mentioned earlier the Merchant Marine. Now we're going to go to a tape where we wait for Mr. Kenny Thomas to perform at 12:30 to 12:45, at which time after that we'll see the veterans of hill fights of Khe Sanh, Vietnam, something that, of course, will be a very moving thing right around the 12:45 time frame. The event will start at 1 p.m. Eastern, and we'll be back before that. Stay tuned for more, and here's more information on the Merchant Marine.
Today, the internet moves data around the globe at the speed of light. And while not quite as quick as the information superhighway, the maritime industry moves much more substantial products port to port and city to city. This interconnecting system of ships, trains, trucks, people, and products is the lifeblood of commerce on a global scale. But you might be surprised just how much it affects each and every one of us on even the local level. Chuck Raymond is the Chief Executive Officer of Horizon Lines, a shipping company that runs a variety of routes to, from, and within U.S. coastal waters.
Well, we carry beer, chicken, household goods, electronics, fashion merchandise, fruits and vegetables, you name it. You could estimate between 7.5 and 8 million jobs in the U.S., which is probably 7 to 8% of the economy is dependent upon, in one way or another, our system working well.
The United States, like many countries, grew up around seaports. Even today, all but 4 of the nation's 20 largest cities have major harbors. The industry impacts everyone: employers, workers, entrepreneurs, the government, and even the everyday shopper on the street. 4 hours ago, the container ship Maersk Virginia left Port Elizabeth in New Jersey on the eastern seaboard of the United States. On a vessel this size, it's a big responsibility, and one that requires quite an education. Today, young merchant mariners have a variety of options for learning the ropes, including education at either state schools or the official U.S. Merchant Marine Academy at Kings Point in New York. It all comes down to making sure they have the right training for the job. Training is certainly an important part of any job, but when it comes to cargo on the open seas, it can literally be a matter of life and death.
Military Sea Lift Command, arriving.
Naval Vice Admiral David Brewer is in charge of those life and death matters and how they relate to our country's safety. Today, the U.S. Merchant Marine is responsible for more than moving sweaters, food, and television sets. It is, in fact, a crucial link in the chain of American national security, especially during
Battle of Somalia as a member of the Special Operations Assault Unit, Task Force Ranger, and the story was recounted in the movie Black Hawk Down, and for his efforts on that day, using his infantry skills, he was awarded the Bronze Star for gallantry, and we appreciate that and your service to our great country on a special day like this. And his debut album, Flags of Our Fathers, is a tribute to our troops and their families. From Nashville, Tennessee, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Marine Records recording artist Kenny Thomas.
Thanks, y'all. It is a privilege and it is an honor to be here today. I can think of no other place that I would rather be playing a musical instrument on Memorial Day than right here for you guys, so enjoy it. I remember every holiday, our whole town lined the streets, waiting on the big parade, on the curb and the lawn chair seats. One old man, the first to stand and snap a sharp salute. One by one the crowd would rise, they would follow suit, while the streamers flew like eagles and the battle banners waved. For all the ones who fought and died, see your glory reigns. And to each and every hero who has ever come and gone, flags of our fathers carry on. Flags of our fathers carry on. Marching bands and motorcades, the flowers and the floats, the beauty queens and their pageant ways. But what I remember most was that one old man, always the first to stand, his hand across his heart, and how his eyes welled up with pride when he saw the color guard as the streamers flew like eagles and the battle banners waved. For all the ones who fought and died, see your glory reigns. And to each and every hero who has ever come and gone, flags of our fathers carry on. Flags of our fathers carry on. And to each and every hero who's ever come and gone, flags of our fathers carry on. Flags of our fathers carry on. Carry on. Thanks, y'all. I got a buddy who's over in Afghanistan right now, and he called me up and he told me a story that whenever they lose somebody over there, the folks, everybody on the base lines the streets as the bodies taken to the aircraft to be flown home. And they line the streets for these guys, and they said nobody back home sees that, but they wanted the families to know that those folks are cared about. And I got to thinking about it, and there's a story that my dad is here today. He came back from Vietnam, and he told me a story where he got off the aircraft with his platoon, and there were people booing. That's something that's just beyond my comprehension, because we've, in this generation of military, we've been taken care of, and the country goes out of the way to make sure we're appreciated. But for those who came home and didn't get that kind of response, that's what this song's about. Homeward bound, this bird is flying. I've been thinking, I've been trying to imagine what we're dreaming. I've heard of how it was before, but this isn't like my father's war. probably do the best just to forget me. No, there ain't no parades for a man like me. My brother spent 9 years objecting to what I spent mine protecting. Tell me, how can you forget that? 'Cause it's easy to sing songs of peace till your eyes have seen what might have seen, yeah. Tell me, how do you ignore that? If there was no fanfare out in Times Square, when I got there, the place was empty. And there ain't no parades for the brave these days, and they'll probably do the best just to forget me. Oh no, there ain't no parades for a man like me. Now 30 years past, I see a show on TV, and I swear the bones inside of me shake. But I tell you, all is not lost if we remember the cost, and we never repeat, never repeat, never repeat the same mistakes. 'Cause there was no fanfare out in Times Square. When I got there, the place was empty. And there ain't no parades for the brave these days. Yeah, they'll probably do the best just to forget me. But I won't let them forget me. Tell me, how can you forget me? Because it ain't no parade for a man like me. Thanks, y'all.
You're okay, you're fine. I'm just testing.
All right. I think this is the song that actually got me here today. We got to go do a USO tour this Christmas. And one of the volunteers that works on the Vietnam Veterans Memorial staff heard the song and said, "Kenny, we need to come sing at the wall." When they told me about 5 months ago, I've been counting the days. I mean it. It's a privilege, it's an honor, you guys, and I thank you for letting me be here. Whenever we play this song out on the road, we tell the story about the wall. And on the Vietnam Wall Memorial, when one of our servicemen was listed as a POW, or missing in action, a cross was inscribed next to their name. And in the event that that man was to make it back alive and accounted for, a circle would be placed around that cross to signify the circle of life. You can walk up and down this wall all you want. There are still no circles inscribed on the Vietnam Wall. Daddy got the call sometime in the summer of '69. Did his tour in the war, but the home he was fighting for wasn't what he left behind. I was there that day when the telegram came and Mama fell to her knees. He was a mighty good man, but he fell into the hands of the North Vietnamese. every man that gave his life. Another folded stars and stripes. Husbands, fathers, brothers, sons will never be forgotten. When you find what once was lost, put a circle on the cross. For 2 years my mama held on, said I'm trying to do the best I can. But the army wasn't paying and she had a boy to raise, so she found herself another man. I was there that day when the taps was played and they buried his name in the ground. Well, the preacher was still talking as his mom started walking and she ain't up to turn around. Another folded star and stack. On behalf of a grateful nation, another man gave his life. Husbands, fathers, brothers, sons, never be forgotten. I know when you find what once was lost, on the cross, cold black rock, on the cross, 60,000 gold. Yeah. Looking in my dash with the same man after all. Was my reflection. I saw it standing back in the wall. With a circle on the cross, on a cold black wall. Circle on the cross for 60,000 gold. Put a circle on the cross on a cold black wall. I never come home. Put a circle on the cross. Yeah, yeah. Thanks, you guys. God bless you. Have a good Memorial Day weekend.
Great, sir, Kenny. Well, this year marks the 40th anniversary of the April-May 1967 Quezon hill fights fought in the northwestern I Corps in Vietnam. And these battles gained a great deal of national attention through the media, especially a Life magazine story accompanied by some very stunning photography by Catherine Leroy, a woman who was a photographer from France and actually jumped with the 173rd Airborne in their one combat jump in Vietnam. But a group of veterans from the hill fights of Vietnam with the U.S. Marines are here with us today, and they will begin to process down to the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. Ladies and gentlemen, the Marines from Quezon are walking down here.
No, they're coming this way.
You'll be seated. We will begin at 1 p.m.
It's line of sight to the truck.
Okay, we're back here live again, waiting for the ceremony to begin. That was country music singer Kenny Thomas performing from 12:30 Eastern to 12:45 his new song Last Band of Brothers during the ceremony, quite moving. And then we saw the veterans of the Hill Fights of Khe Sanh, Vietnam marching in. We're marking their 40th anniversary this year. And we're hanging in here for the beginning of the ceremony. Of course, Jan Scruggs was who is the founder of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, was performing as Master of Ceremonies. Soon we'll have featured speakers General Barry McCaffrey, John Rowan, National President of the Vietnam Veterans of America, Major General Gail S. Pollock, Commander of the U.S. Army Medical Command and the Acting Army Surgeon General and Chief of the Army Nurse Corps, Joseph M. Lawler, the Regional Director of the National Capital Region for the National Park Service, and Diane Carlson Evans, founder and president of the Vietnam Women's Memorial Foundation. The Pledge of Allegiance will be led by First Sergeant Walt Sides and Sergeant Artie Muller of Rolling Thunder. Again, we are waiting for the ceremony to begin. Kenny's songs certainly have moved the crowd here. As you can see, a large crowd. Crowd is receiving this day very well. It's a day of memory to those who made the ultimate sacrifice here at the Vietnam Memorial. Again, we want to thank Base Technologies for making this possible, and Tell America with the campaign to increase awareness of the importance of the U.S. flag merchant shipping fleet to America's prosperity and security. We saw earlier a Tell America informational video on the U.S. Merchant Marine. We'll watch that again at the end, because right now we're just standing by for the ceremony to begin. Here live at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial on Constitution Avenue and 21st Street Northwest, Washington, D.C.
Okay, Brianna, they need you to step away for now.
Again, another notable presence of the press crew here. First time I've seen such a large contingent. Fox News, CNN, CBS, and other major affiliates, even some worldwide press present here for this ceremony here at the wall. Of course, the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, established in 1979. And the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund is a nonprofit organization authorized by Congress to build the Vietnam Veterans Memorial here in Washington, D.C. Today, through a series of outreach programs, it is dedicated to preserving the legacy of the wall, promoting, healing, educating about the impact of the Vietnam War. And the fund is building the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Center, an underground educational facility right near the wall, closer to where we're located across here at Henry Bacon Drive as we head towards the Lincoln Memorial. It's going to be a very moving facility where the images of the faces 58,000 will be present each day on their birthday in a ceremony here at the center. That's, of course, slated to begin this groundbreaking shortly. Very exciting time for the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, of course, as it enters its 25th year, 25th anniversary of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in 2007. Veterans Day will certainly be quite a celebration. It was at the 20th anniversary where they had a live concert on the stairs of the Lincoln Memorial. So looking forward to a lot of exciting content this year here on US Vets TV as we have covered these events from the wall in the past. Events such as In Memory Day, events such as Teach Vietnam, where the educational outreach program of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund takes place. Again, you're watching the Memorial Day Observance webcast on usvets.tv and on Maritime TV, a simulcast for the maritime industry as we salute a special salute this year to the Merchant Marine and its role in Vietnam, saluting the names of those who have died as merchant mariners in various, as the military sea lift of Vietnam. 172 ships activated carrying 96% of the cargo, military cargo to Vietnam, especially the SS Baton Rouge Victory. A ship that was disabled when a limpet mine was placed on its hull and detonated from a riverbank near Saigon. Killed the engine room crew and left a 45 by 12-foot hole in the side of the ship. Raymond Barrett, John Bishop, Earl Erickson, James W. McBride, Timothy Reardon, Robert Rowe, and Charles Rummel all perished in that tragedy. The SS Baton Rouge. There is a Baton Rouge Victory Memorial in Embarcadero, California, that is set up for the veterans of Merchant Marine veterans of the Vietnam War. A lot of interesting stats on merchant mariners' involvement in the Vietnam conflict is at usmm.org, usmm.org/Vietnam. In addition to the other historical facts, including the Gulf War and the current conflicts in Iraq and Afghanistan, all serviced by the U.S. Merchant Marine, and we want to thank Telamerica. Telamerica, of course, is the campaign to increase awareness of the importance of the U.S. flag merchant shipping fleet to America's prosperity and security. TelaMericaTV.com for more information. I want to thank them again for supporting it, along with Base Technologies. Very big supporter over the years of these. Gary Nakamoto and Bob Nakamoto of Base Technologies have been instrumental in bringing these webcasts. And we're going to stand by now as we wait. The earlier video you saw talking about the maritime industry will be rejoined after the event. It's got about 5 or 6 minutes. We want you to see that. It gives an overall view of the industry and what its role is in both America's security and its important economic trade importance to the country. We're standing by waiting for Jan Scruggs. Isn't there what the PR person is?
Hi, yes. Can you step on it? Can you tell me who my anchors are? Kira. Okay. Is it Kira and TJ today, though? Okay, thank you. Kira and TJ, got it. But this year's the 25th anniversary of the Vietnam
of here at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, the wall, Constitution Avenue and 21st Street in Washington, D.C. Here's Miss Janice Nark.
Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you to Memorial Day services here at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. So far, so good with the weather. A little bit of cloud cover for us. I said, every time we sit up here and sweat, we say it's God's way of reminding us what Vietnam was like. We're glad that you're with us today. We have some incredible people who will be speaking to you. And in just a moment, we're going to have our favorite guy, Jan Scruggs. Many of you know him. Some of you like him. I hope you all have a very peaceful Memorial Day. Ladies and gentlemen, Jan Scruggs.
Thank Janice for the stirring introduction. She was a nurse in Vietnam, and she's one of our dear friends and a board member. On behalf of the National Park Service and the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund, we would like to welcome you to the annual Memorial Day ceremony here at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. America commemorates Memorial Day to honor those who've given their lives for our nation's defense. This actually began as Decoration Day after the Civil War and was celebrated on May 30th of each year. In 1917, Congress made Memorial Day the last Monday of each May to remember those who've given their lives. And a very interesting quote from Oliver Wendell Holmes, the Supreme Court Justice, which was written and delivered actually on May 30th of 1884. He wrote, "I see beyond the forest the moving banners of a hidden column. Our dead brothers still live for us and bid us to think of life, not death, of life to which in their youth they lent the passion and joy of spring." Today we remember those brave Americans serving overseas in Afghanistan, Iraq, other places where they're exposed to danger. They're doing it for us. And please stand while the Armed Forces Color Guard presents the colors and remain standing until the colors are retired.
Hi there, Kira, and never more so than this Memorial Day. It's the 25th anniversary of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. Today, during this memorial service, there will be a special tribute to 3 Vietnam veterans whose names were just added earlier.
Master Sergeant John Deutsch of the U.S. Army Chorus will now sing our national anthem.
When she saw her husband's name added to the wall.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Well, over the last couple of days, we have had hundreds of thousands of visitors to the nation's capital, keeping alive a very important American tradition, and that tradition is known as the Harley-Davidson motorcycle. Rolling Thunder has been here in droves, and two of the original organizers are here. One, Mr. Walt Sides, who is a career Marine, is actually one of the biggest individual donors to the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. He and Mr. Artie Muller, one of the founders of Rolling Thunder, will now lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ladies and gentlemen, Walt Sides and Artie Muller.
Jan wrote the words down for us. Thank you. We ready?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which we stand, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Okay, please retire the colors. Please be seated at this time. Lieutenant Colonel James Gray, who is the chaplain for Arlington National Cemetery, will now give the invocation here.
Please join me in praying according to your faith, as I pray according to mine. Lord God, on this Memorial Day, we gather at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial to recognize and honor those who served our great nation in Vietnam. Lord, help us to honor these patriots represented by these commemorative sites. Lord, I pray that the elements and the participants in today's ceremony will communicate a quiet respect for those who served and sacrificed in Vietnam. We pray for the families who lost loved ones. We pray for the recovery of those still missing in action. We pray for those still suffering from this war. Lord, bless us as we assemble here as a nation united. Amen.
Thanks. This is a historic milestone for the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. In November, we commemorate the 25th anniversary of the dedication of the wall with a series of activities, including a reading of the more than 58,000 names of those who were killed and who remain missing from Vietnam. This will be the fourth time in the wall's 25-year history that all of the names have been read aloud in Washington. Those in the audience who would like to be name readers, just contact our staff, go to our website, vvmf.org, and we will make the arrangements. Well, over the years, decades actually, we worked hand in hand with the National Park Service to ensure that this site, the most visited memorial in Washington, continues to offer visitors a healing and an educational experience. And today we are partnering to create an underground center which will work in synergy with the memorial, the Lincoln Memorial, Washington Monument, to educate visitors about the values of service members of all wars, loyalty, respect, duty, honor, and trust, integrity, courage. It's a pleasure to co-host our Memorial Day ceremonies with the National Park Service, and please welcome Mr. Joseph Lawler, Regional Director of the National Capital Region of the National Park Service. Thank you.
Distinguished guests, veterans, and friends, welcome to the Vietnam Memorial. For the last 25 years, the Wall, as the memorial is affectionately known, has drawn millions of visitors. Many of the people who come to remember, reflect, and grieve have professed that this memorial has the power to heal. It is not uncommon on any given day to find visitors visibly shaken and emotional as they stand before the black granite wall, full of the names of American heroes. This year, we celebrate the 25-year lifespan of this powerful wall. It is somewhat ironic how often references to walls invoke the immediate thought of separation or barrier. However, in this case, the wall is a connector, a welcoming device, an instrument of unity. Over the last 25 years, the memorial has impacted so many, even those with no connection to the Vietnamese War. Few visitors to the memorial are left untouched by the symbolism of the memorial. The thousands of international visitors who may know little about the Vietnam War and the United States' involvement, but they are often captivated by this memorial. So as we gather here today on this 25th anniversary, to solemnly reflect on the sacrifice so many made on our behalf in Vietnam during America's longest war. The road back has been equally long, but this memorial has indeed helped us heal. Millions have visited here and have seen their reflection on the wall, and have realized the responsibility we, the living, bear to never forget. This memorial has done so much to reconcile the nation, and we thank all veterans for bearing witness to the fact that in this day, Memorial Day, those who fought and died in Vietnam are remembered forever. Every year, the National Park Service and the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund sponsor this annual Memorial Day observance. We take great pride in our partnership with the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund and with Jan Scruggs, the founder and president of the Memorial Fund. On May 3rd of this year, 3 names were added to the Vietnamese Veterans Memorial. The memorial now bears the names of 58,256 men and women who were killed in Vietnam or remain missing in action. Today, the new name inscriptions become official, and we give honor to those whose names of loved ones are engraved on this wall. The ultimate sacrifice of those who fought and died at the call of their country deserves our deepest gratitude. For the families and loved ones of the 3 servicemen whose names have just been added to the wall, we offer a special welcome. You are not alone here. Our thoughts and prayers are with you. And as part of the continued healing process, let us pause to honor our fallen and spend a moment of remembrance this day at 3 p.m. Wherever we may be this Memorial Day, we dare not forget. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. I'd like to recognize the tremendous work of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial volunteers. They're walking and running around here wearing the yellow hats, and this year we lost a very wonderful, dedicated, and the longest serving volunteer at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, Lee Adriani, a really wonderful person. The memorial had a very personal meaning to her because one of her Sunday school students is listed on the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. I would like at this time to ask a group of special people to stand, and this special people is the American Gold Star Mothers, and they're right here in the first row. If they could just stand and be recognized. And thank you very much. Yeah. The mothers are from Vietnam and Iraq as well. Well, our first speaker today is John Rowan. He enlisted in the Air Force in 1965. He went on to language school where he learned Indonesian and Vietnamese, served with the Air Force in Vietnam and in Okinawa, working with the Strategic Air Command. He's been a very active member of the Vietnam Veterans of America since the organization was founded in 1978, and was a founding member of the VVA Chapter 32 in Queens, New York. He became president of the State Council in New York, and now John Rowan serves as the national president of the Vietnam Veterans of America. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. John Rowan.
Thank you, Jan. Thank you, Jan. Good afternoon, ladies from the Gold Star Moms, and our other distinguished guests here this afternoon. It's hard to believe it's been 25 years since I sat out in that crowd when we dedicated this memorial. At that time, of course, it was just a monumental occasion to get this thing done, and I can't say enough about Jan and all of the other work with the volunteers and the people who made donations and all of the United States that came together to create this memorial. This memorial has done more for Vietnam veterans than most people can think. It's not just a place for people to come to see a name, it's a place for people to come and heal. And we really hope that all Vietnam veterans come here someday to see their brothers and sisters on the wall. At the time when we were 25 years ago, I wasn't quite as gray as I am today, although even then I was starting to fade away like a good soldier should. But it was truly an honor to be here today to represent Vietnam veterans and Vietnam Veterans of America. To honor all of my friends on the wall. I was lucky, as Jan said, I was in the Air Force. My unit, we played around in Vietnam, flew in and out of Vietnam, but luckily I didn't lose anybody in my unit. But I grew up on the streets of New York, and we lost a lot. Starting in 1963 on panel 1 is Jean-Claude Esnault, a good friend of mine. We didn't even know where Vietnam was. We had no clue when he died. I remember going to his funeral and saying, "What? Vietnam? Where's that?" And then he was a French kid. He grew up in Canada until he was about 16, came to the States, joined the Army, wanted to make his family proud because he was French-speaking. Of course, I'm sure that was one of the reasons why they sent him to Vietnam. And he became one of the early casualties. And we have all kinds of people on this wall. This wall is America. It's got every race, every creed, every color, every denomination, both sexes, and probably all sexual persuasions, which some people may not want to think about. But it's true. And they're not just Americans on that wall. There are an awful lot of people, like a lot of people who come to this country as immigrants, who've become part of this wall. I think the Irish, there's a guy in Ireland who's been trying to count up all the Irish-born who ended up on the wall, and I think he's up to 26 now. And there actually is a memorial, by the way, in my grandfather's hometown in Ireland for Vietnam veterans, believe it or not. And it all started here. And it all started with the Memorial Fund, and it all started with this memorial. And it has been replicated all across the country, in towns, in villages, in states, capitals. People have come together to honor the Vietnam veterans. And as was pointed out, that may have been a little late, but better late than never. And one thing for sure, as Vietnam Veterans of America, our motto is never again will one generation of veterans abandon another, and we want to make sure that the new veterans coming along get what they deserve. Unfortunately, I'm sure we will at some point build a memorial to all of them. But at least to make sure that they get, when they come home, those who come home, the services and whatever that is that they help, and we're here to pledge that. And again, it's hard to say, 25 years. We are going to commemorate this 25th anniversary on November 10th with a big parade here in D.C., and we invite all of you to come back. And bring your friends, bring all of your friends. We want to see every Vietnam veteran ever served march down Constitution Avenue and really show the country what it's all about. And then when you did that, that'll be just a prequel to the next year when we celebrate the 15th anniversary of the Women's Memorial. In any case, thank you all for coming here today to honor us and to honor our brothers and sisters of the wall. Thank you.
Good work.
Well, the 28th of May is sort of an interesting day for me because in 1969 I was hit with rocket-propelled grenades. Several of them went off next to me, but I wasn't sure I was going to live. But once I got to that hospital and saw that Army nurse there, I knew that I would survive. Well, one of these Army nurses is here today. Diane Carlson Evans, whose hard work and determination brought about the Vietnam Women's Memorial. Ladies and gentlemen, a living legend in American military annals, Diane Carlson Evans.
Thank you. I don't know, Janice Nark, who's a colleague and an Army nurse, and she served a little later than I did in Vietnam, she said, some of us like Jan Scruggs. I think all of us respect Jan for what he did, and we can never thank Jan enough for what he started in this nation, for all Vietnam veterans. And Jan, we like you most of the time. Jan's under a lot of stress right now, as are his colleagues, an advisory board that is chaired by General Barry McCafferty, who is speaking with us today and will be introduced. But there will be a memorial center here, thanks to Jan and his tenacity, and we know Jan never gives up. But today, I am honored to introduce our featured speaker for the Vietnam Women's Memorial Foundation. Before I do that, I want to bring you up to date on the sculptor of the bronze monument which stands here behind you on this sacred ground. Glenna Goodacre suffered a severe head injury on March 13th, possibly from a fall. She underwent emergency brain surgery in Santa Fe to repair a subdural hematoma. In a coma for many days, she has been hospitalized since that time. She is currently in the Craig Hospital in Englewood, Colorado for rehabilitation and is making slow, steady, and hopeful progress. Keep her in your heart and prayers as she will undergo surgery again this week. We wish for the healing powers of the Vietnam Women's Memorial to return to Glenna as she struggles daily for a full recovery. On Veterans Day 1993, the Vietnam Women's Memorial, beautifully designed and sculpted by Glenna, was dedicated here beside the wall, honoring the 265,000 women who served during the Vietnam era. The multi-figure sculpture portraying a wounded male soldier reveals the painful reality of war. 3 women soldiers surrounding him reveal their courage and compassion. We stand united today because of men and women serving together to make our nation strong then and now. We remember with love and pride all of our brother and sister veterans since the birth of this nation who lost their lives in service to our country. We are honored and extremely proud to have the Chief of the Army Nurse Corps, Major General Gail Pollock, with us today. General Pollock was born in Kearney, New Jersey, and earned her nursing degree from the Walter Reed Institute of Nursing with the University of Maryland. She holds several master's degrees and is a certified registered nurse anesthetist. In addition to being Chief of the Army Nurse Corps, she is also currently Acting Surgeon General of the United States Army and Commander of the United States Army Medical Command. We know women are great at multitasking. Her awards and decorations are numerous. She did earn the coveted Expert Field Medic Badge and is proud to wear the Parachutist Badge, so I'm only naming those 2, and I would like to tell you more about her background and extraordinary accomplishments, but then there will be no time for her to speak. I want to introduce to you a true Renaissance woman who has endeared herself to patients, earned enduring respect of her colleagues, and her highest-ranking military official colleagues in our military, Major General Gail Pollock.
Thank you very much for that warm welcome. And thanks to Jan and the Vietnam Women's Memorial Foundation for extending the invitation to allow me to speak to you on this very special occasion. I'm humbled and deeply honored to be here. It's a privilege to join all of you in paying respect to all of our heroes, the men and women of the uniformed services and the unknown number of civilians who served during Vietnam and other conflicts. As I look out over the crowd, I smile because I can only imagine how proud our fallen heroes would be to see all of you here today, showing your appreciation for their selfless service for our incredible nation, and simply saying thanks to them for going the distance. Memorial Day is special because it gives us a chance to reaffirm our commitment to all veterans. We take time out of our busy schedules to appreciate where we've come from and the tremendous progress we have made. We realign our focus and come together as a nation to support our freedoms. But more importantly, we take another step towards healing the wounds of war. Like the Vietnam Wall, the Vietnam Women's Memorial has brought healing to many. This quote is from their website. These women gave as much as we did in service to our country. Their wounds bled internally, whereas ours were external. Their strength was immense, and after all these years, I truly wonder how they were able to maintain the dignity and courage night after night. I don't remember your names, but I'll never forget you. With words like these, it's only fitting that the sculpture representing the Women's Memorial has remnants of those past heroes. The bandage scissors from a nurse, affectionately referred to as Little Dot, and the dog tags of Duffy are in the casting of the memorial. But these are only two of the many who sacrificed for the sake of a noble cause. Their actions categorize the very best of the human heart of the medical professionals during the worst of times. Our nation did not fully understand the traumatic impact these women suffered, but thankfully, today we not only understand it, but we are aggressively implementing ways to provide them and all veterans with the care, support, and benefits they have earned. Let us not forget the importance about talking of these invisible wounds so they can heal and not permanently scar and interfere with our lives. Earlier this month, we added 3 new names to the wall, and today it becomes official. We're very honored to have the family members of all 3 of those honorees with us today. Although history tries, no number can truly capture the loss our nation suffers during a conflict. A number does not truly detail the extent of the loss, nor does it reflect the deep impact felt among the family, the friends, and other loved ones. And family members and loved ones are a critical part of the military team. During deployments, you are often the ones left alone to navigate life's challenges on the home front. You are the ones who hold the family together while our servicemen and women wage war in foreign lands. You are the ones that serve as inspiration for them to complete the mission. And you never let us forget the sacrifice while you carry forward our history. As a career Army soldier, I say to you that we do understand the sacrifice of families, and we appreciate all that you have done to support our military community. Your support takes special strength, character, and courage, and I would be remiss if I did not thank you for all that you do and the sacrifice and pain you have endured in supporting your loved one's desire to serve our nation. It is not only a soldier's blood, sweat, and tears that marks a time in history, but it also is their warrior spirit. So as you extend your gratitude to our veterans, please understand that all who experience war are forever changed, some to a greater degree than others. And whether you agree or disagree with the politics of any specific war, these military men and women have earned your respect. They did not ask, "Why should I go?" Instead, they said, "Where do I sign?" Veterans deserve to be thanked for their selfless service, but they need your help in healing the wounds of war, internal and external. Let them know it's okay to admit those feelings. Facilitating healing is everyone's responsibility. I will never lose faith in America or her fighting spirit. Even with all of her flaws and shortcomings, America is still the greatest nation in the world. As the Acting Surgeon General of the Army, I'm proud to report to you that the healthcare professionals today continue to bear the torch and carry forward the proud traditions of excellence in military medicine. The finest teams in the world are near the front lines, heroically fighting to save the lives of the men and women as they continue to wage the global war on terrorism. The men and women who care for our service members are only satisfied when all of our service members get the care they deserve and expect. You have my word that we will not rest as we focus on excellent care for our colleagues in harm's way or suffering from any other disease or injury. It's an honor for us to support them and serve America. Thank you very much for allowing me to be with you today as you honor veterans and their sacrifices. God bless each of you. God bless America.
Really, I must thank you for that speech. It's very inspiring. Everyone's very inspired here. It's always inspired people. It's a good thing. It's just great. We thank you so much, General. We would like to acknowledge some people with us today. Judith Young of the Gold Star Moms, Martha Didamo of the Gold Star Wives of America, Sons and Daughters in Touch is represented by Kelly Coleman Ryan, the American Legion by Lloyd Woods, their Vice President, Brad Barton from the Commander of the Disabled American Veterans. The Jewish War Veterans is represented by Richard Rosenweig. And Jeffrey Roy is here from the Military Order of the Purple Heart of the Non-Commissioned Officers Association. Very pleased to have with us today Jean Rosenstreet. And from the Paralyzed Veterans, Maurice Jordan. Dennis Cullinan is here with the Veterans of Foreign Wars. Drury Felton from the National Park Service, where they store the items which are left at the memorial. Marty Irving from our corporate council, our board members, John Dibble, Bob Frank, Sandy Mayo, and Janice Nark, who you heard from earlier, longtime friend of the Memorial Fund. Brigadier General George Price is here, one of the great Americans ever living. Can you just stand for a minute, Brigadier General George Price, because people should know who you are. This guy is... He had the great opportunity to fight in the Korean War and the Vietnam War, and was wounded as an infantry officer there. I want to thank the Veterans Advisory Board for Verizon for donating the American and POW/MIA flags handed out earlier. Live webcast of our ceremony today is made possible by tvworldwide.com and Base Technologies Incorporated and Tell America. Ceremony is archived on our website, vvmf.org. You can go there. And by the way, we have some people here who are in the Khe Sanh, and in August we're taking a bunch of Vietnam veterans and others back to Vietnam and staying in great hotels, but we will visit Khe Sanh, and they actually have a very nice visitor center there It's a very interesting place to visit. Let me now bring back singer, songwriter, and former Army Ranger Kenny Thomas. His album, Flags of Our Fathers, A Soldier's Story, is a recollection of songs written or co-written by Kenny that tell the stories inspired by his life in the military, his service to the country, and by those he saw serving our nation. And he's here with his dad, who's a retired Lieutenant Colonel John Thomas. Ladies and gentlemen, Kenny Thomas.
Thanks, y'all. It's about 3 years ago, and I was taking a walk right through Arlington, going and visiting a buddy of mine who we put down in the ground. And I really did. I came up on this old guy who was standing there. I thought he was talking to himself, and he was talking to one of the graves. Went back, and he told me some stories about where he had been during World War II. I went back and did some research and found out, yeah, we were losing those guys at about 1,000 a day now. It really doesn't matter, though, if you wore a uniform in World War II or you wore a uniform in Korea, Vietnam, Afghanistan, Iraq. When it comes down to it, the stories you're always going to tell are about the guys, the men and women that were on your left and your right, because it is by the grace of God that they're the reason you're still here. And it's the only reason I'm still around to do what I do. So I thank my friends that were with me that day every chance I get. This is a song that goes out to anyone who's ever put on a uniform. I was visiting the graveyards, the endless rows of white, where they buried all the soldiers who ever took up arms to fight. And I came across this old man, he was talking to the grave. I kept my distance, watched in awe as he spoke to them by name. He said, Casey, you're still the captain of our high school football team. And Iggy, we know you lied about your age, you were 17. Harlan, you were the first to fall when we came under attack. You boys are the heroes, ones who never made it back. And he said, buddy, if you hear me, well, I know you gave your life. And I won't forget the others on our left and on our right. Won't be long till I'm gone, and you know I'll join you then. And then our last band of brothers rides again. So I called that man a hero, and I asked if we could meet, but instead he introduced the men of easy company. He said we never dreamed what we would see when we raised up our right hands, but our lives were bound forever when we stepped out on that sand. And he said, buddy, if you hear me, I know you gave your life. And I won't forget the others on our left and on our right. Won't be long until I'm gone, and you know I'll join you then. And then our last band of brothers rides again. Yeah, well, it's been a while since I'd gone by, so I stopped just the other day. And I noticed there was one more stone in the ground where Easy lay. And I said, buddy, if you hear me, well, I know you gave your life. And I won't forget the others on your left and on your right. A generation gone, though you moved on, I know you're there with them. And now your last band of brothers rides again. A generation gone, though you moved on, I know you're there with them. of brothers rides again. God bless you guys.
Very good, yeah. Good work there, yeah. Yeah, you really got to appreciate someone who can write words like that. They take some creativity, but really come from the heart and inspire a lot of people, especially the people here. And our keynote speaker today actually fought in the Vietnam War, where he was wounded 3 times, also received 2 Silver Stars and the Distinguished Service Cross twice, and had an opportunity to fight as well in Desert Storm, where the infantry tactics that he developed and carried out are still being studied, which led to a very rapid defeat of the Iraqi forces. The speed and boldness for which he took the American soldiers in that war led to far fewer American casualties. He had a very lengthy military career. He's a graduate of the U.S. Military Academy. He's also a military commentator that you hear and see quite often on network television. Ladies and gentlemen, General Barry McCaffrey.
Jan, thanks for that introduction. It's an honor to be here. We're all very pleased that Jan's wife, Becky, has surmounted a very serious health challenge, and we pray for her speedy and total recovery. Let me also say that I think all of us here believe and understand that there's no single person who had more of a role to play in bringing together this beautiful memorial and helping unite the Vietnam veterans. How about a round of applause for Jan Scruggs? My personal thanks to Major General Gail Pollock, the Acting Army Surgeon General and Army nurse. She and her medical team have cared for 27,000 of our wounded fighting in Iraq and Afghanistan. My wife Jill and I have a son who's in the 82nd Airborne fighting up in the mountains of Afghanistan right now. We're keenly aware that many of these young soldiers come home, some of them are here with us today, severely physically disabled and mentally traumatized by multiple injuries. And the care that they receive from point of wounding all the way back into the theater of, here at home makes a huge difference to their subsequent lives. Gail, thanks to your leadership. John Rowan, the national president of VVA, he's been with us from the start in 1978. Joe Lawler, thanks to you and the National Park Service. What a partnership this has been throughout this entire 25 years. Kenny Thomas, U.S. Army Combat Ranger and country western rock star. It doesn't get any better than that. And let me also just pay special tribute to Rolling Thunder. They come in increasing numbers, not just to honor our Vietnam veterans and the missing and possible POWs that we lost, but also the veterans of every war. Let me give you a quick update. I've been honored to serve for the last couple of years now as the chairman of the advisory committee on building a Vietnam memorial exhibit. It's going to be right over there across the road. It'll be underground. Janice Nark has served as my vice chairman. We've got 35 people that consistently show up. Our fundraising will be led by General Colin Powell and Dr. Chris Kotsakos. We've got $13.5 million. There's $75 million to go. And so we underscore, we're going to ask for everyone to get involved and to help with this. Our advisory panel has a lot of teachers, a lot of veterans from every branch of the service. We've got mothers and children of those killed fighting this longest of American wars. We had Joe Galloway, I think probably the best combat reporter of his generation. People like Jerry Martin, Marine, Stan Carno, the author of The History on Vietnam, Rear Admiral George Worthington, Navy SEAL, I don't need to say more. Brigadier General George Price, combat veteran of Korea and Vietnam. Chuck Boyd, POW in North Vietnam, Air Force fighter pilot, Air Force Cross recipient. John Dibble, Navy Riverine vet. Mike Gormali of the VFW. John Summer, the American Legion. And of course, Diane Carlson Evans, the founder of Vietnam Women's Memorial. We went over a couple of days ago to the Capitol. Harry Robinson, our distinguished board member, and helped guide this process, and I and Senator Chuck Hagel, who's a personal hero, you know who he is, a wounded draftee veteran of the fighting in Vietnam. We laid out for the press corps what we were trying to achieve. The real triumph of the whole thing was to introduce Ralph Applebaum, who's here today. His company is the designer of our proposed exhibits. They've had some unbelievable, beautiful triumphs in the past. They did the Holocaust Museum, the American Museum of National History. Our exhibits are going to include images of combat veterans in all wars, to include the brave servicemen and women now fighting in Iraq and Afghanistan. It'll probably host 1.8 million people a year who will come to honor, to remember the sacrifices of the 58,000 killed. Our theme we gleaned from reading thousands of letters, and out of those letters came lessons of citizenship. Jan mentioned them: service, duty, loyalty, respect, honor, integrity. We're also going to have in this underground exhibit a resource center so that we commit ourselves to the education of coming generations. We'll bring out some of the thousands of artifacts that are left each year here at the wall. Probably most importantly and most poignantly, every day in that exhibit, up on a translucent wall will come the images of more than 300 of our fallen comrades each day. On their birthday, we will remember them for generations. This is going to be a memorial exhibit of warriors, not of the war. With any luck, we'll have a groundbreaking in 2010, and in the following 18 months, we'll be able to produce this exhibit. And I just call on all of us to watch it carefully, to stay engaged, and to support us in this work. A quick comment. Here it is, the 25th anniversary of the memorial. The years have fled by. It's very special, significant. The 58,000 names behind me, I would argue, don't need a lot of words. We had General Pete Pace, our current Marine Corps Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman, come down here a couple of years ago as a keynote speaker, and he stood up here with no notes, and the first thing he said was to recite the name of every Marine killed in action in his platoon during the fighting in Hawaii City. It made a huge impact on all of us that heard his words. Cast your own memories back and remember the fierce bonds of friendship and loyalty that bound you to your buddies. There was no single Vietnam experience. It depended on what unit you were in, what year you were there, what part of the country you served in. A bunch of us served in pretty fierce ground combat: Army, Marines, Special Operations, ground combat units. Casualties, physical misery were extreme. I was a company commander 68, 69 in Garryon in the 1st Cav Division. Essentially, over time, everyone got killed or wounded. Thousands of others of you served out at sea on China Station or on the gun line, on the riverine forces and Air Force fighter bomber units coming out of Thailand, going up north, or in Air Force or Marine air controller units or the AC-47 gunship crews. Hundreds of thousands of us served of the 3.5 million vets, served in logistics, combat support, engineer units, backbreaking labor, nightly rocket and mortar fire, and the constant pressure of ambushes. All of us remember the helicopter crews, the pilots, the people that took us into action, their insane courage. They brought gunfire support to us. They supplied us. They took us out, the 300,000 of us who were wounded in action, and got us back to the skillful and dedicated care of our field medical units. As we remember all these experiences, and a lot of them are pretty darn positive, we shouldn't forget that. Friendship, trust, courage, intense humor, shared misery done so easily by youth. But a lot of it's clouded by those of us who could not come home, whose lives were ended so completely in combat. The pain is sharp. You know, I'm always amazed at Families don't heal. Parents, brothers, sisters, friends, high school teachers. There is no closure. Many of my friends, my brother-in-law, First Lieutenant Dave Reagan, your comrades are now immortalized on that wall, and there's a sense of permanent loss. That's why we're here, to remember, to pay honor to those memories, to learn and take comfort from their sacrifice, and probably most importantly, which is why we have so many teachers in this advisory committee, is to pass on the lessons of their example. There will be a final day of reckoning. All of us here will again be reunited with these brave soldiers who we remember the last time we saw them, when they were alive, frozen in time, their youth, their optimism. Then we'll be able to say, we have all come home together. God bless the 58,000 of our friends who are memorialized here. God bless all of you.
Great work. We greatly appreciate it. We certainly appreciate the General's time and effort. He's given an awful lot of his skill and talent to the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Center, and this will be really our legacy for America's youth. I would now like to note that among us today we have people who are here on active duty, also people who have served in Iraq and Afghanistan. I would like to have each of them stand so we could give them a round of applause. We're glad to have you here, and our memorial is your memorial. You can use it anytime you'd like. I would now like to acknowledge the family members of the three servicemen whose names were recently added to the wall. Some are on the dais behind me, and many more, some are in the audience. If the families would please stand, we will certainly show each of your loved ones appreciation for each of the service and sacrifice. But right now, I would like to ask three people, Ann Pruitt, Mary Krywicki, and Jack Stuyvesant. They will each come up to the microphone here and read their loved one's name because there were three names engraved on the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. Mary?
My husband, Richard Monroe Pruitt. My brother-in-law, Joseph Gerald Krywicki.
My brother, Wesley A. Stuyvesant.
That's great. The three names that were engraved were wounded in combat in Vietnam and died much later. One died, I believe, in 2004. We will now actually begin laying and placing the wreaths at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. So we're getting the wreath layers in place here. See, my prayers have been answered because the thunderstorms are supposed to start around 4 p.m. We did not need an early start to that dramatic thunder and lightning and high winds. Ladies and gentlemen, the first wreath will now be placed at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial by the National Park Service, followed by the wreath of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund that's being placed by our talented singer and Kenny Thomas and General McCaffrey. The Vietnam Women's Memorial group is placing a wreath there. That's Diane Evans and General Pollock, and whose remarks we greatly appreciate. The next one will be placed by the American Gold Star Mothers, followed by the Gold Star Wives of America. Next, Sons and Daughters in Touch. Followed on the east side by the Vietnam Veterans of America, the American Legion, Rolling Thunder, the Disabled American Veterans, the Jewish War Veterans. Military Order of the Purple Heart has a very beautiful wreath. I hope you will all have an opportunity to see it in the shape of a Purple Heart. Non-Commissioned Officers Association, Veterans of Foreign Wars, Verizon Corporation Advisory Board that gave us the nice flags that we all have, 7th Cavalry Association, the 25th Infantry Division, which is has a tropical lightning patch, old Army unit, 27th Infantry Wolfhounds, the A6 Intruder Crews, the Irish American Society of the Tidewater Country here in Virginia, very beautiful wreath that I hope you all come to see, a Scottish American Military Society, 1st Marine Aircraft Wing Association, Vietnam Veterans Memorial Wall Trip Committee, the Vietnam Vets Motorcycle Club and Vietnam Vets of Australia, Holland, and Denmark motorcycle clubs, also the Hill Fighters of Khe Sanh have been placing wreaths at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. Now, ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the playing of taps, and that will shortly thereafter, that will end our ceremony today. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending.
This now concludes our ceremony, the Memorial Day observance for Memorial Day 2007, here live from the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, The Wall, in Washington, D.C. We want to thank our sponsors, Base Technologies, and of course, Telemerica TV. TelemericaTV.com is something we should all go look at, because today we talked about earlier, salute to the Merchant Marines' participation in the Vietnam War and also in other wars and conflicts in the United States. And Telemerica TV is the campaign to increase awareness of the importance of U.S. merchant flag shipping to America's prosperity and security. I want to thank again Base Technologies, the crew of TV Worldwide here at usvets.tv, and our other internet TV channel where this was simulcast, maritimetv.com. check out the archives on both these channels of this event for later. Again, we want to thank Jan Scruggs, founder and master of ceremonies, for another excellent ceremony here. And we want to thank everybody for joining us and a tribute once again to those who made the ultimate sacrifice here on Memorial Day 2007. A shout out to the troops around the world, American citizens watching here at USVets.tv. For USVets.tv, Maritime TV, Telamerica TV, and Base Technologies, I'm Dave Gardy. Thank you for joining us.